in thin and choppy trade. The January contract up $3.40 at $878.60 per ton. Crush margins, though, have deteriorated over the past week, and that's causing some end-user demand to back away from the market. Losses in Chicago soybean and soy oil futures also put some pressure on the canola, but the weakness in the Canadian dollar and gains in European rapeseed provided support. The USDA releases its monthly supply-demand report later today, and any surprises in that data will likely set the tone in the markets by the close. In the U.S., activity is mixed. Soybeans and wheat mostly lower, while corn holding on to gains in the most active months, as traders are adjusting positions ahead of that USDA report. While there was no fresh export business announced today, yesterday's strong U.S. soybean sales did remain a bit supportive for the bean market. Although the January contract, it's down 4 cents now at $14.82 per bushel. Pre-report estimates ahead of today's report generally call for a small increase in U.S. soybean ending stocks, but overall opinions are mixed. World ending stocks are also likely to be up on the year, with expectations for production cuts in Argentina likely countered by rising crop prospects in Brazil. Corn, it is holding on to small gains. March up 5 cents ahead of the USDA report at $6.47 per bushel. Estimates ahead of the report call for a slight increase in Brazil's corn crop and a reduction in Argentina, with U.S. ending stocks only expected to be adjusted slightly. Wheat futures, they are mostly lower. Minneapolis down 2 cents in the March contract at $9.06 per bushel. Kansas City down 4 cents at $8.40 per bushel. That's the March contract. And Chicago wheat down 5 cents in March at $7.41 per bushel. General expectations ahead of the report are for an increase in U.S. wheat ending stocks, with world estimates also to be followed closely. France's winter wheat crop was pegged at 97% good to excellent, according to a report there. Let's look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Friday, December 9th. In Winnipeg for MarketsFarm.com, I'm Phil Franz Workington.
The weather forecast is calling for more and more snow. It's with a sigh that you think about all the time that you're going to be spent moving it. The medication you'll need to numb the pain in your lower back from shoveling. Well, Butler Farm Equipment is your pain relief. They have lots of ways to move snow, gravel, dirt, and sand. Pretty much anything can be moved with the right equipment from Butler Farm Equipment. As a matter of fact, with the right equipment, the job could become so fun that you'll want to do your neighbors as well. Moving snow is just the beginning at Butler Farm Equipment on 107th Street.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Welcome to the show. Later on, we'll be chatting with Peace Gallery North curator Jacqueline Benadetto all about the comings and goings at the gallery, including the Christmas market, which is on right now. But first, Constable Chad Neustaeter has a unique role at the Fort St. John RCMP detachment. He works in Indigenous Policing Services. We're going to talk a bit about and find out more exactly about that role right now with Constable Neustaeter, who joins us here on Moose Talks once again. Welcome back to Moose Talks. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So tell us a bit about this gig you've got in Indigenous Police Services. What does that generally mean you do and spend your time on when you're at work?
Sure. For the most part, our unit is more of a liaison unit rather than an enforcement unit. But we still do enforcement as well in the police role that we do have. Basically, each week we attend one of our 3 Indigenous communities. We go up to Halfway River, Blueberry River, or Doig River First Nations. We spend time in community each day. We talk with individuals that we see. We do a lot of liaising with chiefs and councils. Sometimes we'll ask advice or we'll talk with them if they have questions. Trying to do as much as we can to build relationships between RCMP and our local First Nations communities. And so it's actually a very rewarding job. I enjoy it a lot. Each time we go up there, we've got what we call letter of expectation, things that we work at for each of our communities. And so oftentimes it'll be like traffic, or it'll be youth engagement. It might be substance abuse, things like that. And so for us, one of the things that I personally enjoy is I was the school liaison officer 3 years ago. And so for me, working with youth and students is a very rewarding place to work.
I see.
I try and connect with youth in the community as well as in the schools that they connect to. Sometimes students will see me at the high school, at various schools in town, and out in our rural communities as well too, as part of that.
I see. I want to go back to what kind of you said off at the start. So essentially, you go and you build relationships, as you say, but likely what would happen if there was a crime committed on the reserve, there'd be another unit who would go to, enforce or investigate, I suppose. Is that sort of the difference generally?
The nice thing with the RCMP is because we're one organization, even though we have different roles, we can still complement and work together with each other.
Sure.
So even if there was some sort of crime that did occur, let's say the Indigenous Policing Unit is not on, one of our general duty or our frontline officers, they would take the initial call and do the initial investigation. But oftentimes we will still assist.
Yeah.
We are the ones, I've been in our communities now 3 years. I'm going on into my 4th year. And so we've developed relationships, and that's one of our goals, is develop relationships with individuals so that they, even like our communities here, that they will trust us more. One of the things that I find here in Fort St. John is our Fort St. John detachment basically rolls over about every 5 years. It's almost a completely new detachment. And so people will often ask, hey, do you know so-and-so from way back when? And it's like, well, no, they're gone, and I don't know them. But they've made a connection, right? There's that trust, there's that relationship. And the same as it would be in town, it's in our Indigenous communities, the same thing. And so we have access to people that we can talk to them. They'll talk with us. We can find out information. We can also do tasks that can help the frontline or the general duty officers. It's an hour and a half up to halfway, 2 hours to the school. So if it's just like a single task, our unit, we're already going up, we can do that. We can help out our general duty officers in that way. And so we partake in the enforcement as well that way as well.
I see. You also happen to have, as part of your role, a media relations officer. So, for example, if we need to know us here at Moose FM in Energetic City, we need to know something, we need the RCMP to comment or have a statement made or something from Fort St. John, we'll call you. You're kind of our person, our front person for that. How do you balance kind of the two things together? Is that really a challenge for you, or do they kind of go hand in hand a bit, given that really it's all about building relationships in kind of everything you do?
It's actually really tough. Indigenous policing is supposed to be about 100% of my responsibility. But at the same time, I try and do the media relations sort of off the corner of my desk. So I know that there's times when media has reached out and asked for something and I'm often just not available, or I'm not around, or I'm not even aware yet of what it is. But there are those things that officers in the detachment will request assistance for, or media will catch me in the office for, and I will try and accommodate that. One of the biggest things I find is that the public doesn't really know what the police do, right? Or what they're involved in. And so for me, one of the reasons that I took on the media relations role is so that I could sort of bridge that gap, right? How do we bring the public and the police together? Because really the public are the police and the police are the public. We're all members that are involved in our communities. We've got, a lot of us have children that are involved in the schools. And so we're very much a part of the fabric of Fort St. John. That being said, a lot of the public don't know what we do and the things that we're working on. So having that media relations role helps me to bridge that a little bit.
I see.
So it's difficult though.
Yeah. So you kind of talked earlier about how you liaise with chief and council and that sort of thing. So is it you'll attend their meetings, or they ask you to attend because they have a question for you, or you're just there to learn more, or is it kind of a bit of everything in that sense?
Yes to all of it.
Yeah.
So we regularly attend each of our communities. We'll pop in at the band halls. We just make ourselves available, right? Sometimes just access is one of the easiest things that helps us do our job if we're present. It's also, presence is one of the things that also deters a lot of things. Police presence is one of our best forms of enforcement. So just being in our communities helps accomplish that. Popping into the band halls, speaking to chiefs and councils when they're available. But we also do get invited to council meetings. We do monthly reports to let them know what's going on in their communities from a broader aspect as well. We attend community and cultural events too. It's an opportunity for us to get involved in the life and in the fabric of the community. We've gone to culture days, culture camp. We've been asked sometimes, we haven't made it work yet, but to go hunting with individuals, right? Just to understand more of their life and for them to get to know us better too. So we've had a number of funerals over the last number of years. We've attended the funerals. Sometimes we help with traffic control as part of that, depending on which community we're involved at. But we've also been a part of the meal that happens. We've had the privilege, we were invited to dance at one of the funerals, just to be involved in the culture of it. And I know that there's been those that have been attending that have really appreciated that, seeing, oh, okay, the police aren't at a distance. They're not just keeping themselves separate. They're trying to get involved. They're trying to make themselves aware, to learn more about who we are and what we do. So yeah, it's all of those things is part of our job, for sure.
So is part of this kind of about this building relationships and learning also about, accepting and sort of understanding the cultural differences between, say, a large Canadian society in general, and when you happen to be engaging with Indigenous communities, and changing even and tweaking your sort of approach to policing? Is that sort of part of this as well?
It can absolutely be a part of it, yes. I know a lot of times police get accused of being racist and things like that. And, in the role that we have, we try very hard to work against that. There's nobody that dislikes a bad police officer more than a good police officer, right? Because they build bad reputations. We're in the goal of trying to build good reputations. Having them understand us understanding them, cultural differences, but that we can utilize that to better understand and work together with our communities is a big part of what it is. And it will influence the RCMP. We just had one of our supervisors here asking Fort St. John to assist with making sort of a handbook on how to do community relations, cultural relations well, and what are things that can help improve the RCMP in that way throughout, in this case, British Columbia.
How much has that been a challenge for you? I mean, you mentioned it, and we know there's media stories all the time about sort of the relationship between RCMP and the Indigenous people in general in Canada and throughout our history. When you come up against that, when you have to sort of look at that, how do you reconcile the two? How do you work towards reconciliation? And how much of a challenge is that to kind of come up against that and try to be a member of the community, as you say?
All three of our communities have reminded us that it's about relationships. The more you can get to know people, the more they will trust you or distrust you. But if they know you well enough and you spend enough time with them, clearly they will build a trust if you're a good person. And we've seen that in our communities. I had one person get mad at me for something that happened 25 years ago, which I was not even a police officer for at the time. And I was able to talk with them and share about who we are and what we do. And this individual actually apologized to me. And they're going, I didn't realize that. They just didn't know. But it's built on, I've had a number of interactions with this person. They kind of know who I am. They've never seen me be someone that would go against the things that they hold dear and that they are important to them. And so it definitely makes a difference. From someone that doesn't know you for the very first time to someone that's now met you 5 or 6 times and they've seen how you interact in community. They've had other people speak about you and the role that you've had. I often will have people say, no, like I've been called numerous times. I've been called cousin by individuals because I have a positive relationship. And so to have that acceptance, it takes time. But some of the priorities of the RCMP are that we are honest. We do have integrity. We do the best that we can to be people of integrity and take responsibility for things. And so if we're that person, it's received well, because I would say that's universal what other people are looking for as well too.
I wondered if there was a moment or experience you've had kind of in the almost getting into your 4th year in this role that really stands out to you, something that happened that you're proud of or that just kind of you remember well and you think this is sort of what this is all about, really.
I've got a whole bunch. And my mind often goes to the very positive. Even yesterday, I was up at Blueberry River First Nation, and one of the elders that is often involved in community events, Mayab Sasson, was at the band hall, and her daughter had said, "Oh, she needs a ride home," and she looks at me and she goes, "Constable, could you give her a ride?" Absolutely. And so here I am giving an elder of the community a ride to her home, being asked by a family member, could I do that? That's one of the things. When I was at Halfway River just a couple of weeks ago, I was interacting with someone in a traffic stop, and I just had a youth come up to my police vehicle, and I had my window open. He just like leaned in, and we just started talking. You know, I know there's been stories in the past where as soon as people saw police, they would run and hide. If they were in a vehicle, they would duck down below the seats, different things like that. And that's been sort of the negative part of the relationship. But here, this youth is, I think he's about grade 8 or grade 9, and just wanders up and we have a conversation. And it's taken time to build that, but to see the acceptance that we have in that. One of the things that we do too is we sometimes take pictures when we're with people so that we can forward it with our monthly reports to say, hey, Chief and Council, this is what we've been doing. And the pictures are kind of proof of that. And there was a little boy that was playing out in the front yard, and I said, hey, like, what are you doing? And we talked a little bit, and his dad came out, and I said, can I take a picture of all of us? And so we did. And, you know, like the dad is giving like peace signs and stuff too. And it's just that acceptance and that willingness to interact and to not just hide, but to come out. That relationship's been built enough to say, yeah, you know, we're willing to talk to you. We're not afraid of you. And I get that even from my own friends too, right? They're like, oh, I've never had a police officer. I don't know what it's like. So we have good conversations about that. They're like, you're the only one. Can I ask this question? Because I've never known someone to ask that. And we get that in our communities as well too. When people come up and they find you and invite you for a meal, or they give you a bag of bannock because they've gotten to know you and they made some fresh, and as soon as they see you, they wave you down. That's happened at Doig a couple of times. And so to see that, it's just a reminder of, no, the things that we're doing are good. It is working. And we are trying to reconcile those relationships. That is ultimately our goal. And for me and my other partner that I work with in our unit, it's not just our job. That's who we are. That's who we want to be. And that's why we've moved into this role.
I see. I was going to ask you too, before we go, was this something that you wanted to do and sort of aspired to, or was this something that they kind of assigned you?
So in this case, it was really quite unique. I was the school liaison officer for the school year in 2019.
Yeah.
And the school year had ended and they weren't sure if they were going to keep the position. And one of the Indigenous Policing Section units spots opened. And I'm like, well, you know, if you need somebody for a bit, I'm very willing to do that, because as I've gotten to know students a little bit, I got to know some of our Indigenous students as well. And so I thought this would be a natural role. And so I went into it just for a bit. And then I did apply for the position because it came open. And both my partner and I, we both applied for the position to be a part of it. And it's a place that we actually quite enjoy. It's a lot of learning for me, you know, learning a new culture. And one of the things that we're trying to do over the last number of months is learn language as well too. So we're attending some of the language training.
Oh, okay.
And that's gone very well. So enjoy it.
Excellent. All right, Constable, we won't keep you any longer, but thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. That's Constable Chad Neustaeter of the Fort St. John RCMP detachment. We'll be right back to talk all things Peace Gallery North with Jacqueline Benadetto right after this on Moose Talks.
Make something special, whether it's signs for the office, a gift for someone, or your own unique hoodie. Graphics Man makes it easy. Located at 10514 101 Avenue.
Let's make something special with the Graphics Man. You want something special? Call the Graphics Man.
Give Tyson a call at 250-793-6766.
There's a lot of information out there these days and a lot of places to get it. But if you want to stay up to date with the City of Fort St. John events, projects, engagement opportunities, and council happenings, you'll find it at fortstjohn.ca. The website is updated regularly to make sure residents always have the most recent and accurate information. You can also give the City of Fort St. John Facebook page a follow. The city of Fort St. John, where nature lives, families flourish, and businesses prosper.
The North Peace Leisure Pool has a variety of activities and programs happening throughout the year. This month, there's plenty happening at the pool for the whole family. Here's what's coming up.
The pool will be closed from December 3rd to the 10th for repairs. Unfortunately, they're still doing maintenance and repairs to the floor and the hot tub. The staff at the pool apologizes for any inconvenience.
For the full schedule of programs and activities at the North Peace Leisure Pool, visit the city's website at fortstjohn.ca.
Come Gnome for Christmas at your locally owned and operated Home Hardware. If you're a lover of adorable little gnomes or have someone on your Christmas list who is, stop in and see Home Hardware's beautiful selection of gnome ornaments, gnome signs, plush gnomes, and more. Plus, a gorgeous selection of Christmas trees, ornaments, home decor items, and plenty of amazing gift ideas. Merry Christmas and all the best in the new year from everyone at Home Hardware Building Center. Here's how. At the Salvation Army, they give people the tools needed to rebuild dignity and renew hope, whether that means providing food, shelter, emergency disaster relief, spiritual guidance, substance use recovery, or life skills development. The Kettle Campaign has enabled the Salvation Army to transform the lives of millions of Canadians. This Christmas, join the Army of Givers and donate to the Christmas Kettles. Every dollar remains in the community. Merry Christmas from the Salvation Army in Fort St. John.
Number 1 is out, and 2 and 3 are in at UFC 282. UFC light heavyweight champion Yuri Prohaska has suffered a shoulder injury and has elected to vacate his title. As a result, the new UFC 282 main event on December 10th will see former champion and number 2 ranked Jan Wachowicz taking on surging number 3 ranked Magomed Ankalaev. Catch all the action on the big screen at Just Jack's Restaurant and Chances Casino. Then have even more fun over at Chances after the fight. Visit chancesfsj.com. Use your game sense, know your limit, play within it.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back. I'm Dub Craig. Now we're going to chat with the curator of Peace Gallery North. There's lots of cool stuff going on there, including a new exhibit all about quilts and the Christmas market, which is on right now. We're joined now by the curator of Peace Gallery North, Jacqueline Benadetto. Jacqueline, welcome to Moose Talks.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us this morning. It's almost been a year for you at the helm of Peace Gallery North. How's the year gone for you so far?
It's been great. Yeah, there was a lot. I felt like when I came onto the role, there was a lot to do just because of coming out of the last 2 years with everything being shut down. Mm-hmm. It was really just getting things happening again. For the first few months that I was there, I think a lot of people weren't quite going out just yet. So we're starting to see that pick up sort of towards and after the summer, which has been nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see.
Was that daunting for you, or was that sort of like, this is an even better opportunity than I might have had because not much was happening? I get to sort of curate and create all these things and sort of almost start anew, kind of basically from scratch.
Yeah, it did feel like a little bit of a blank canvas walking in, and that was nice. I mean, there's certain things that have been traditions for the gallery for a long time, or traditions to the center, whether it's Bright Nights in June, or, when I came on, the exhibit binder was already booked for, a year or two. So certain things were already set in stone, but there was a lot of creative freedom to be able to work with artists and rework the gift shop and see what we want to do.
Wonderful. What would you say you're most proud of so far in the kind of the first 10 months or 11 months you've been in the role?
I think that working with local artists has been incredible. The amount of talent up here is amazing. It's been nice. It's really nice to see artists have this space as their platform to show, to sell their work. And because, a lot of the times art is sort of that elusive job that people think you can't necessarily do professionally. But one of the things working at the gallery has opened my eyes to is art can absolutely not only be a hobby, but it can also be a profession. So being able to be part of providing that for people is really, really great.
You mean profession even like it's your only job, or even people who can sell art while also maybe working a day job, kind of pay the bills, as it were.
Yeah, I think there's different levels for different people.
Yeah.
I think some people are doing it more full time. Granted, some of those individuals may be also retired. And then there are people who have a job, whether it be full time or part time, that are also making money from art. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you sort of about your, I hope ethos is the right word I'm looking for, but sort of programming. You had said there was a lot of stuff that was already kind of booked when you took over. But, now that you've been in the job a while, you could sort of start kind of making more of your mark even than you were before. What are you looking for when you're deciding, I want this sort of exhibit to be here, I want to feature this, or I would like this gallery to be about this in general? How do you kind of decide that and kind of go forward with kind of making that vision a reality?
I think it's a very interactive dynamic that occurs. So obviously everything that comes through the gallery is coming through our local artists.
Yeah.
So when I meet local artists and I see what they're working on, what they're passionate about, that actually is the foundation that will form what we're able to show. A few months back, we did a emerging contemporary local artist show called Multiformity, and most of the artists had never shown an exhibit before. So that was a really nice moment, because I know some of the artists that are well established, they really know the drill when it comes to putting on exhibits, getting things in gift shops.
Yeah.
But sometimes artists that haven't quite taken those steps yet, it can be a little bit overwhelming or almost an energy block to wonder, how do you go about doing those things? So to see new artists for the first time be able to do that is really lovely also.
How did you establish that relationship? Is there you have meetings like a couple times a week with people? Is it you find these people somehow via social media or whatever it happens to be? Is it both?
Again, it's very, very organic. Luckily, when I came on, there were so many fantastic artists that are already established with the gallery. So I just met them through doing the work there, through the exhibits that were already in place, through the gift shop. But as far as new artists go, I would give the most credit to the individual artist initiative. There are some artists that have come into the gallery to say, hey, who do I talk to about getting my art in here? And that opened up a lot of conversations and a lot of doors for those artists.
Interesting. I imagine this is silly to say, but I didn't realize it could be so easy to just, I want you to look at my art and put it up in the gallery. Can you do that? So someone listening right now that maybe does art in their garage in their off time, they could just ask you to display it, I suppose, eh? Yeah, that's amazing. Kind of looking forward then quickly, what are kind of some of the things you've got coming down the pipeline that you can tell us a bit about kind of for 2023 even?
So some really great exhibits. We have a new exhibit open each month. The opening night is either the first or second Friday usually.
Okay.
That's always free for everyone to attend. So we have a great lineup of exhibits, everything from felting to print work to painting, pottery. So large array of mediums also. The other thing I'm really excited about that we started very recently was we opened a session called Open Studio every Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. It's free, it's drop-in, you don't have to stay for the whole time, you just come when you want during those hours. And a lot of the times, being an artist can be quite solitary. Some artists love that, but some artists, they really want to be able to just casually socialize while they're creating. So this gives that opportunity. And one of the other beautiful things about Open Studio from my perspective is that I feel like some of the best conversations that move our community forward and move the gallery forward happen when we gather. And I feel that, I don't want to say this, but in some ways I feel like maybe community can be a bit of a lost art nowadays, and it's so essential for our mental health and our well-being. So I think having this space to gather and to create and to have these conversations is really special.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about this exhibit that just opened, Pieces of the Piece. Tell us a bit about it.
Oh, it's really lovely. I highly recommend the community come to the gallery. It's on until we close for holidays to come see these pieces. The Fort St. John Country Quilters Guild, they submitted, I think we're at around 41 or 42 quilts.
Wow.
And they're incredible. Each time I walk through the exhibit space, I see something different. You might be struck by a pattern at first, but then you go up to the quilt and you see that the stitching is a design in itself, literally images or just little tiny zigzags, or it's just, there's so much to take in.
And it's all from local quilters, I suppose, eh?
Yeah.
Is that, speaking of local cool. Is that something you kind of aspire to do all the time? You basically only feature kind of local stuff generally, or?
Yeah, there is so much talent up here that we
Yeah.
do want to give our local artists that space and time in the gallery. That being said, we have a handful of artists in the gift shop from Prince George, Fort Nelson. I've got one fantastic jeweler from Nelson.
Okay.
But other than that, everyone's Fort St. John or, very close to the area.
Gotcha. All right, and finally, you've got this Christmas market that you're also got on right now. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh, so this is very nice. So it's just next to the gallery. It's open during regular gallery hours. I want to say that we probably have about 20 different artists and artisans in there. And again, wide variety of mediums, everything from textiles or things that people have sewn to homemade candies, to paintings, to purses, to you name it, woodworking. So that's just another opportunity for people to support local artists this Christmas season when they're giving gifts to their loved ones.
Absolutely. And is that Christmas market also open till you kind of close for the holidays, I guess?
Yes, that runs right through till the 23rd.
Gotcha. All right. Jacqueline, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today about Peace Gallery North. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. That's Jacqueline Benadetto, the curator of the Peace Gallery North. We'll wrap things up on Moose Talks right after this.
You're shopping around for an automobile? Come see Fort City Chrysler. You're trying to find the very best deal. Looking for a fine pre-owned vehicle? Fort City Chrysler has cars, trucks, minivans, and SUVs, four-wheel drive pickups, and diesels too. Many with remaining factory warranty. And they're all quality inspected and ready to go. At Fort City Chrysler, you're buying from your hometown dealer. No pressure, no hassles, just honesty and integrity. Only at Fort City Chrysler, only in Fort St. John.
VJV Dawson Creek invites you to join them for the Christmas bread, cow, and heifer sale this Saturday, December the 10th at 11 a.m. Sale will feature over 300 head of good cows and heifers, including several herd dispersals and herd reductions from local producers. Listings and photos of the cattle are available on the Dawson Creek calendar at VJVauction.com. VJV Auctions would also like to wish all of their customers Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Our last regular calf sale of 2023 will be held on Tuesday, December 20th.
For more than 40 years, Collison Zunert Law Corporation has been providing legal services throughout the Peace River region. Hi, I'm Rob Zunert, and on behalf of the staff and lawyers at Collison Zunert, we wish you a safe and happy holiday season. Please visit us at czlaw.ca.
What do you want to get more? Get your bids in now. Rhythm Auctions in Charlie Lake invites you to join them for their unreserved online auction this Saturday at 9 a.m. The auction will feature unused inventory on behalf of Uncle Wiener Wholesale, a quantity of Wolverine skid steer attachments, and more. You can also add your equipment or vehicles. Bidding is now open, and all bidding will be done online. Rhythm Auctions Unreserved Online Auction this Saturday at 9 a.m. For full details or to register, visit rhythmauctions.com.
Personal, powerful conversations that deserve to be listened to. Before the Peace is an energeticity.ca podcast now available on all major platforms that highlights Indigenous voices in Northeast BC. Hosts Jenna Moreland and Trey Lapashinsky will take you on a journey with an Indigenous lens on the history of the Peace region. Find out more, go to energeticity.ca/before the Peace.
We chatted with Waylon Fenton about being an Indigenous athlete, as well as growing up around his mother, who is also an Indigenous advocate, and his grandmother, who was a residential school survivor.
Check out all of our podcasts, go to energeticity.ca/podcasts.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly.
Did you deck your house out holiday style? Visit energeticcity.ca/Christmas and add your house to Faro Construction's Best Decked House Map. Because the Christmas spirit sprinkles everywhere in Fort St. John. Faro Construction presents Best Decked House 2022.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
We can dance if you want to. Add some rhythm to your mornings with the McDonald's Egg BLT McMuffin or the Chicken BLT McMuffin. Available until 11 a.m. for a limited time. With the BLT McMuffin sandwiches, it's easy to start your day off right at participating McDonald's restaurants in Canada.
our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
A thank you to our guests, Constable Chad Neustaeter and Jacqueline Benadetto, for joining me today. Consider becoming an Energetic City supporter today. With either a one-time, monthly, or annual donation, you will be supporting local news that shares the unique values of the Peace Region and make those in power hear us. Monthly and annual donors will receive a free energeticcity.ca mug, which is wonderful and high quality. Become a supporter now over at energeticcity.ca. That's our show. Jordan Prentice and Trey Lopashinsky are the producers of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.